Happy Friday everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RDA Central West Business Leaders Breakfast, and I'm really excited that you've joined us. Sitting next to me in the hot seat this week is Mr. Peter Bishop, the joint owner of Bishop Wagyu. Pete, welcome to breakfast.
Thank you, Sam.
Awesome to have you here, mate. Great to catch up. Pete, you're a well-known Wagyu beef producer in the Central West, but for those that don't know, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the Central West, and I guess what got you into Wagyu in the first place?
Thanks, Sam. We moved here at the end of 2017 from the Hunter Valley. We had a family operation there which was sold, and our family members went separate ways, and this is a good opportunity to move down here. We've got family in the Central West as well, and we liked it down here also because of the productivity of the soils down here. It's probably 3 times as productive as where we came from in the Hunter Valley. And its proximity to Sydney and Canberra as well has been a big draw card for us. So we also produce Wagyu cattle, which is a Japanese breed of cattle, and we did that up in the Hunter Valley, and we brought that operation down here with us as well. So we've been here now just on 3 years, and really enjoying it.
What's been the best bit about living in the Central West?
The best bit is, I'll tell a lot of people this, is how busy this place is. We have the Lachlan River here, and the economy that thrives off the Lachlan River is quite impressive. We've got dairies, horticulture, we've got fat lamb production, cattle production, grain production, abattoirs, and tourism. It's compared to the Hunter Valley, where it was more focused on mining and thoroughbreds and a bit of agriculture as well, but down here it just seems busier and there's more of it. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about
and I guess that diversified agricultural base probably also great for the economy in our region.
Definitely.
But for those that don't know, Pete, I guess what are some of the attributes of the Wagyu breed, and how do they compare to, I guess, to more common beef breeds that are produced in the Central West?
Yes, so if you look at a normal, typical British bred animal, they've been bred for their meat production, or their lean meat production, and one of the drawbacks of that is that you do lack a little bit of flavour if you don't have the fat content in your meat. So over the years, even normal British breeds have been focusing on trying to increase fat levels in their meat, called marbling, and that's a unsaturated fat. But Wagyu, on the other hand, are an animal that was bred in Japan, and they were a beast of burden originally, and they didn't know it at the time, but during the Second World War they started eating Wagyu to get more protein into their soldiers, and they discovered that there was a lot of fat in the meat, and that was because they were originally a beast of burden, and so they stored that energy in the muscle.
Yep. And
so when they started eating it, they said, hey, this is pretty good. So fast forward 40 years down the track, some genetics were allowed out of Japan into America and into Australia, and we were looking to supply a product to a customer, and the customer was calling out for flavour, and the answer to that was marbling, and Wagyu did that in spades. So that was a big difference, and that's the reason why we went into Wagyu.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess it's a relatively new breed in Australia. As you said, I think earlier you told me that it started in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But how has, I guess, the industry changed over that period, and how has, I guess, the customer awareness of Wagyu changed in that time?
Well, in the beginning, we were one of those players in the beginning when it came out in the 90s, and we were turning off maybe 1,000 animals a year, the whole country was, and they were all going on boats, live trade to feedlots in Japan, to now where the industry is probably turning off somewhere between maybe 250,000 head per annum through feedlots, probably more now. So the way it's changed is that we've seen the early adopters come in and crossbreed the animals with British breeds because we didn't have enough purebreds. But then as time goes on, we've been able to perfect the breed and breed more purebreds, what we call full-bloods. So a full-blood is a term used to describe 100% Japanese genetics. A purebred is where it's got a bit of Angus bred into it. So the full-blood herd is then grown since. So now I think we're registering something like 20,000 animals per annum in the Wagyu Society. And the changes that we've seen, yes, so we've seen huge numbers increase. We've seen more markets open up around the world as well. So before we only had Japan, now we've got South Korea, China, Malaysia, Taiwan, the Middle East, Americas, and Europe as well. So it's worldwide now and still growing.
And I guess domestically as well, customer awareness of the Wagyu breed is now a lot more front and centre than it was, because of, I guess, as we were talking about before, I guess advertising around certain breeds and certain product types. One thing that's also changed probably in the 25 years or so that you've been in the agricultural sector has been technology. How has technology evolved during that time, and how has your business had to adapt? Because I know you're a passionate advocate for technology in business and in agriculture, but tell us how things have changed over the journey for you guys.
Over the journey, so there's two aspects to that. If I could look at the livestock side first, and then maybe the infrastructural or operational side for farming second. In livestock, we've really the term genomics has come into play now, and basically that's using pedigree information and DNA technology to help predict the performance of cattle, and that technology is going through the roof. It's a method of being able to analyse your cattle and how they perform, and do it at a much earlier age. So the genetic improvement, that trail of genetic improvement can be fast-tracked. So that's been a huge change across the whole industry. From an operational perspective, where the ag tech side of things, we're now looking at monitoring everything. So we can now monitor water points, soil moisture levels, soil fertility levels, mineral levels, temperatures, everything, and all that can be compounded into a database and analysed. And so the advent of this Internet of Things has allowed us to do that remotely, and we have a business where we're sort of developing products to do that, and then we're working with other companies to actually quantify those results and put them into practice. So that's all still early days in terms of a farmer being able to utilise that information, but it's where technology is going. We'll be able to predict when there's going to be a cold event coming, not only with the weather, but when we have to get their sheep out from the cold and in under cover to protect them, or when there's going to be a hot spell, and we'll also be able to predict how dry our soil's getting, depending on the type of pasture that we're growing on top of that soil. So so those sort of things we'll be able to predict with more accuracy, which will then allow us to predict stocking rates, and it'll be more of an objective appraisal of stocking rates rather than subjective. So over time we'll be able to plot that and then predict, when we're going to go into a drought, and it'll be an objective prediction rather than subjective.
But also as well, greater efficiencies for farm enterprise, greater outcomes for the animals that you guys are rearing as well. And we actually had Hamish Munro on a few weeks ago talking about his universal dashboard that through Pear Tree, and just it's amazing how the evolution of, I guess, data in an agricultural sense just continues to gain pace.
Yes, Hamish has a great platform which is essential to the whole jigsaw puzzle, because there's so much data to collect, and he funnels it all into an easy way to analyse it. So hats off to him. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, one of the things that you're actively involved in your local community, and you're also one of the hard-working committee members at Regional Development Australia Central West, but I guess, can you tell us a little bit about where your passion for regional development came from, and I guess what are some of the priority projects that you've identified, being a relative newcomer to the Central West, that you think are important for our region into the future?
Yeah, so my passion came from, I watched my father get involved with regional development in the early days, in the 80s. He was part of the Hunter Development Board, and my grandfather before him. The Hunter region has this flood mitigation scheme. After the 1955 flood, they started that mitigation scheme, and he was part of that. And my father also helped build dams in the Hunter Valley as well. So that was part of it. Plus, I've also been part of various boards in the Hunter Valley with the LLS and a few other things. And coming to the Central West, I thought, what a great way to get to meet more people and get to know the engine room of the Central West through the RDA. So that's where I wanted to sort of not only for my own benefit but also help contribute to the region. I thought, well, this is maybe some way I can help, and some of my passions that I'm sort of I care a lot about is obviously it's a tricky one, but one of them is we have to there's an insatiable appetite for food around the world, and we have to produce it. And we also have to make a living, but we have to look after the environment as well. So somewhere in the middle there is a compromise, and that's what that's the philosophy I'm following and trying to drive. So that does involve, trying to make agriculture more secure, which might mean building a dam wall or enlarging Wagyu dam wall. And then the other thing is getting the message out to community through this agribusiness forum that we're part of, and that's really exciting. I think, yes, it's been centrally focused in the Central West, but I'd like to draw on more resources outside the Central West and bring those resources into.
Yeah, it's a good, nice segue from you there, Pete, about the Agribusiness Today Forum. It is an annual agribusiness forum that's run in the Central West with the support of RDA Central West. Now you, as you said, you're a passionate advocate for the agricultural sector in our region, but why are these forums so important for the sector, and what benefit do growers and producers get out of that exchange of ideas and, I guess, insights into the top of the tree policy and changes that are coming in the sector?
I think it's important for us because there's so much change happening, and all of us need to be aware of what change is going on and adapt to that change. And the forums are a good pathway for people to find out what's happening in the industries. And we as the RDA can provide that pathway from without having any independently, I suppose you could say. So, and because of our committee, we're well connected. We can draw in highly qualified people to talk at these forums and give advice. So, at these forums, we get the leading bankers in Australia to come out and inform the group on what's happening in the banking sector and world markets, and also what developments are happening from a science perspective with the environment in mind as well. So there's lots of things that we can cover, and
well, make sure you save August the 4th in Forbes. That's the 2021 Agribusiness Today Forum. Watch this space. More to come with that one shortly. Pete will be there, I'll be there, and we hope all the local producers are there as well. Now, Pete, we're going to hit you with the Fast Five. It's where we get to learn a little bit more about you. Best recipe or way to enjoy Wagyu?
Well, Korean barbecue style is the best. So it's basically you sit down at a little table and you've got your own barbecue, and you've got your veggies all chopped up, ready to cook, and then you've got your meat cut in little fingers, and basically that's it. You just cook it on the barbecue and eat it with either wasabi or a soy sauce or something. Well,
it's early, beautiful. But I'm getting hungry already. Now, 3 dream dinner guests that you'd like to invite over to enjoy this Korean barbecue.
Yes, the dinner guests. So one was one of those solo ocean yacht races. Any one of them, because I think the stories that they could tell would be fascinating. Another one would be my grandfather, because I'd have 50 million questions to ask him about what he went through from the First World War, Second World War, droughts, those sorts of things. So, and then the third one was Casey Stoner, who's a former Young Australian of the Year and GP motorbike racer.
Well, I don't have hidden talent or hobby on there this week, but I think for those that don't know, Pete is a big fan of motorbikes. You've got a few, I think you said.
Yeah.
Did you ever race?
No, amateur, very, very low level amateur race.
I should have said legally. Anyway, hidden gem of the Central West. So this could be a people, a person, or a place. So when visitors come into the region, it's something that you like to show them.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this, and it is slightly motorbike tilt, but I've got some friends that want to come down and visit Central West because I've been telling them about all these hidden gems, and that's all the different roads that you can go on, and all the different cafes you can visit, and all the little pubs you can go to, like Forest Reefs or Woodstock, or wherever else, there's lots of little places you can go, and so so I'm saying the whole of Central West and all of its little hidden gems are on these roads somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. All the villages in the Central West have all got something unique to offer visitors and tourists.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. We might need to do the motorbike loop to get a few in there. Now, career that you would have taken if you didn't take farming up?
Yes, probably stockbroking.
Okay.
Yeah, I was keen on stockbroking when I was at school, shares and that sort of thing. And I remember doing it for work experience at a firm before the days of computers. And I was given the job of running the mail between the exchange and back to the trading house. And I remember having a cheque in my hand for $2.5 million and thinking, I should get some of this action. So yeah, but I never did in the end.
I think you're taking a harder path. I think with farming, I think there's a few ups and downs, just like the stock market. But I think it's sometimes it's the weather. Now, sporting code and team of choice.
Yes, this is. Can I say two?
Sure.
It's
live. I can't cut you off, so you could say three if you really need to.
Yes, so Jack Miller is an Australian from Bundaberg,
Yep.
and he rides MotoGP,
Yes.
so obviously he's number one. And then the second one is Newcastle Knights. I'm a Hunter Valley person, so I still support the Knights.
Yeah, well, look, maybe this year I think they're
they're
on the way up.
Yeah.
Okay, now another thing that's important when you are, navigating your professional journey is to have mentors and to get good advice. You've had a unique journey, I guess, in the Wagyu beef space. But what's a piece of advice that a previous mentor has given you that stayed with you and supported you on this journey?
Yeah, it's one, if you can picture yourself on the river on the bank of a river, and the river is opportunity, and there's heaps of it just flowing past you. And he said, well, there's plenty of it out there and you won't get it all, but if you've got the courage to stick your hand out into the river and make some of it stick, it will. So that's something that I've taken along with me my whole journey is, the opportunity, it's all out there, you just have to be in the river to grab some of it. Yeah.
Actually, it's good advice. You've got to have a crack. You've got to go in there, have a go, and hopefully make the most of it.
That's right.
As a agribusiness leader, what's a trait that you have had to, I guess, draw on personally, or you think is important to support you on that way?
Yes. So, and one of the traits that I think I guess it's nurturing relationships. It's probably the most important. I've had some experiences over the last few years where I've realised that those relationships have been what saved us through the trying times of drought and whatever else. So yeah, that's one thing that I always want to develop and keep in mind. That's the highest priority, is to nurture those relationships.
It's actually really good advice, because there's always a lot of people out there that might be going through similar things or have navigated this journey professionally themselves that you can garner from, and it probably helps you going forward. So another reason to come to forums like the Agribusiness Today forum, great way to network and forge some of those important relationships. Now, we've touched on the drought briefly this morning. It was a challenging first few years for you here. I think you would have come down to the Central West just as the worst of the drought was kicking off. But I guess we've had some great recent rains. How does this year, 2021 and I guess 2020, compare to those first couple of years that you were
Look,
here?
the first couple of years, again, it was, smack bang in the middle of the drought. However, we were able to sort of establish ourselves there, but it was pretty tough going. And we found that this area seems to didn't suffer the drought as badly as other areas in the state did. The locals would argue otherwise, but when I compare it to other areas, I thought, this may be one of the reasons why we moved down here. But 2020 and 21, COVID, in the agricultural sector, we had a few issues, but really we haven't seen quite a fundamental change in that regard. But the weather, because of the drought, there's been a huge demand for breeding stock, and that's pushed the prices quite high, and so that's creating a challenge for people to buy in replacement breeding stock. So that's an ongoing lag effect of the drought, which we just have to manage and look at. When you do buy an expensive animal, it's more not for a trading position, but for a long-term investment, and that is for breeding. For breeding, that's what the way we're approaching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're coming close towards the end of this morning's chat, Pete. It's great to learn more about Wagyu. I could talk farming with you all day, but one of the things that I just wanted to finish up on is, I guess, it's been a very up and down, unprecedented last couple of years for the sector, but what's your prediction, I guess, for the Wagyu beef industry, the beef industry more generally, and our region over the next kind of 18 months?
So the Wagyu beef industry's, because it's sort of, we target a higher end part of the market, the demand for that worldwide, we're predicting to be pretty consistent. And when I say consistent, it is growing. There's going to be challenges for the beef sector in the lower, well, not when in the medium to lower range, because you've got South American companies producing beef a lot cheaper, and they're sending it into China and Asia a lot cheaper than what we can. So we, as Australians, most of our product can probably hit the market a bit higher than that cheaper product. So if we can maintain our level of quality, we should be able to weather that storm. There's a lot of capital being sunk into the feedlot sector and processing sector in Australia at the moment, so they're talking long term. There's a lot of vision out there saying that the sector's looking good for long term. So for the Central West, I think I can't see why production and why the economy shouldn't keep still pushing along with world demand. We export 80% of our product, most of our product, so I can't see that changing.
Yeah, look, I share your confidence, and I think that's a really good point for all of our viewers and listeners this morning on the podcast or through Facebook, is the investment that the big operators are putting into into processing facilities or feedlots or whatever it might be. They're not going to make those big investments unless they have long-term confidence in the sector.
That's
and I
right.
think that's a good point, and it kind of should give us as a region confidence and the sector confidence. Now, Pete, lastly, what's an easiest way for listeners, viewers to engage with you to learn more about Bishop Wagyu or the other operations that you run through your business?
Yeah, so we have a website, and we put out various forms of social media, bishopwagyu.com, and then we have an international genetics business called Quality International Genetics, and Quality Genetics International, I should say, and that again through the socials and the website.
Now look, we'll put all those details up after this morning's chat. Pete, thanks so much for your time. Great to learn more about your journey into the Central West, how Bishop Wagyu started, how it's going, and what the future looks like. But for everybody else, we hope you have a fantastic weekend. Have a safe and enjoyable Easter next week, because we're not going to be here next Friday, but tune in a couple of weeks' time when I sit down with Andrew G, the federal member for Calare, to learn more about what's happening in that federal sphere and from a policy and project perspective. But until then, have a great day, great weekend, and we'll catch you next time.